Welcome back to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast. Jason Bale and Hard Money Bankers co-host Ian Horowitz from Equity Warehouse with another great guest and interview we're going to bring up here in a second. The topic's related to investing in a different city that you live in. Our guest CJ is going to go through that, and that's definitely something that's entertaining and exciting for me because that's not something I typically do. We lend locally, we invest locally. I've always felt that it would be challenging to do that in other markets. So I'm definitely interested and curious to hear CJ's take on this. If you're a first-time viewer, watcher, listener, I promise we will keep this entertaining, educational. We like to have a lot of fun on this show as well. It's very engaging. If you're a return viewer, follower, listener, watcher, thanks again for all your support. We certainly couldn't do it without you. As you know, we like to bring in guests from all over the place that are actively real estate investors, not just gurus, but actively on the front lines investing in real estate.
Yeah, and we're recording this right before the month of September. I don't know when this one will get out, so maybe by the time this is out, there's already a Fed cut, but there's a lot of fun rumors being tossed around out there, so the real estate market might be heating up depending where you're at in the market. I think it's already been hot, and I think there's been opportunities, but there's going to be a little bit of a feeding frenzy coming up here soon. So I think today's episode is going to be awesome for those that are looking to get started or even those that are looking to expand their portfolios. So guys, if you get any value out of the show, the best compliment we can give our guests is by sharing the show. We don't care about the likes or subscribes. It's the best compliment we can give our guests. So enough about us, and let's bring in CJ Calio all the way from Hawaii.
CJ, how are you?
Hey, what's up, guys? Jason, Ian, thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I thought I was on a game show there for a second. You're like, oh, you just won your trip to Hawaii.
Awesome.
Yeah, maybe just start with maybe a little quick background, a little backstory about yourself, how you got into real estate. And we'll go from there. Definitely excited to chat.
Wonderful, guys. So my story begins. I was born and raised in Hawaii, and growing up, I was taught to go and find that strong, stable, secure job, preferably a union job. For those that live in Hawaii, they know exactly what I'm talking about. So when I graduated high school, I immediately found a job at UPS, and it was a great job, union job, good benefits, good medical, good retirement, the whole nine, everything that I was raised to go and strive for. So I thought I hit it. I thought I found success until this one Christmas season where this thing called Amazon got really popular that year. And they just flooded us with so many packages and deliveries. We've never seen that volume before in Hawaii. And I was working all these hours and feeling this pressure of like, where am I spending all my time? I'm on the road delivering all these packages. And this one particular day, I was out delivering and hustling all day long. And I noticed it was well past my normal finish time. And I wasn't even near done. I was like, this isn't what I signed up for. I'm spending all this time away from my family, the money, the medical, all this is great, but I'm missing the most precious moments of my life, my wife, my kids. I didn't see them. I was getting home, they were sleeping. I was waking up, they were gone. And this pattern that was just going on for months and months during this particular season. And I was like, I'm done. So I just brought the truck back. My boss wasn't too thrilled about that, but I didn't really care. I just had this thought in my mind. I'm done. I want to quit. So driving home that night, I'm thinking this isn't what it should be, right? This isn't what I was taught success was, to live a life where I'm making really good money, but I don't see those that I love, especially during the time of year that's so important, which is Christmas. So I get home and I wake up my wife and I tell her my brilliant idea. Like, I'm going to quit. To my surprise, like she said, cool, you can quit. But I got a question for you. How are you going to replace your income? I was so emotional and frustrated with how the day was, how this season was going. Like, I didn't think that far ahead. I was just like, I'm done. I'll figure it out afterwards. But for her to say, yeah, you can quit, really made me feel supported, even though I didn't see her for months during that time. But I didn't have that solution. I didn't have that answer. And the cool thing is during this season, she was already looking into vehicles that could potentially get me out of my job. And she stumbled into real estate, specifically buy and hold for cash flow investing. And being that great husband, when she said real estate investing for cash flow and not in Hawaii, I freaked out. Like, I don't know anything about real estate. I work at UPS. I deliver packages for a living. I don't know anybody in real estate. I don't know anybody investing in real estate, let alone somewhere else. So, like all good husbands would do, I directed her to go and figure it out. And I went I tried to do other things, and other things look like starting businesses. I started a car detailing business, a landscaping business, house cleaning business. Things that I thought I could do physically, or maybe I had some experience in the past when I was a kid growing up, helping my dad detail cars. I did things I knew. And the interesting part is when you start businesses, most often they don't succeed. Like, I think it's 9 out of 10 startups fail. I was that 9 out of 10. So after 9 months of trying this the hard way, I asked myself this question, like, what do I have to gain doing this the hard way? See, my wife was already finding success. She was ready to take steps in real estate. She was out networking. She was gaining traction. So I put my pride aside. I chalked up some courage and I said, I'm in. I'm joining you, Jazz. And I remember her inviting me to the first real estate networking event in person. Man, I was shaking as I walked into this room because I felt so intimidated, not knowing anything about real estate. I walk into this space and all these people are shaking hands, talking story, talking about their strategies that they're doing. There's like multifamily, there's buy and hold, there's flipping, there's wholesaling, there's syndication. And again, that fear just kept coming up. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know anybody in the room, but most importantly, I didn't want to lose money. That was on my mind. Walking out of that space that night, everything changed, because in the midst of feeling overwhelmed, scared, confused on what would be a good strategy for me, I looked over and I saw my wife was with me. In that moment, I realized I wasn't alone. Like, I had somebody to do this with. I had a partner, and I leaned into that, and that changed everything for us. 4 years after that meetup, we created a large enough portfolio to replace not just my income, but hers as well. The important thing is I no longer had to trade time for money, and I got to live the life that I was looking for that I couldn't quite find being a UPS driver. I didn't feel stuck at a position where I was limited at how much money I could make. I had endless possibilities on what I can create with my real estate portfolio. There was financial peace coming from the fact that I had generational wealth that I could pass on to my kids. And that was amazing. So, like, your listeners, whether somebody's wanting to quit their job like me or wanting to add additional income, I believe real estate investing can do that for everybody. And that's my story, guys.
Yeah, man. That's I think it's a very relatable story to a lot of people. Either, they are at the start of this story, they're at the backside of this story, they're somewhere in this story, and I think it's very, very relatable to a lot of people. So talk to us about your first deal, because I mean, you're literally on an island, right? Most people feel like they're on an island. We live in Maryland, so there's some hot spots here in Maryland that are local to us. However, you got people that live in New York that we watch come down to Baltimore, or people in California, or these other locations that are just too expensive to invest. So talk to us about your first deal and investing from afar, I guess, back into the mainland.
Absolutely. So once I bought into that method of buy and hold for cash flow, the numbers simply explained itself to us. You know what I mean? Like, you just look at a property. So say in Hawaii, our median home price is about $1 million for a single family home, but rent's about $4,000 at best. That is not going to solve my initial problem of cash flow because I'm not making any. So that challenged us to go and find a market that supported it. And we didn't know what we were doing. So we actually networked a lot in the beginning, like the part of my first networking event. And we met others who have already gone before and found success in other markets that were more affordable. Rent to price ratio was there. And we leveraged their connections. We asked for referrals. And we started off with a turnkey property. And I was in Indianapolis, single family home. I think we bought it for about $100,000 and it rented for $1,000. So it met the 1% rule.
And what year is that? Sorry, Jay.
Oh, geez. Like 2015.
Okay. All right. Good. Sorry, Jay.
Yeah. So that's through your network of people right? Like, so you're in your network. I don't know if you flew out there, you didn't fly out there, but it's obviously a hike for one property. I'm sure that's, there's, tactics, as you're buying in scale to not go obviously look at the property. So, and then was the financing through your local network as well?
It was through a referral again. We went through a turnkey company, and working with a turnkey company, they often have affiliates
Sure.
they could work with, and they passed us off to a mortgage person. It was a traditional 25% down investor mortgage, 30-year fix.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, perfect. So you see that working, and you're like, oh wow, like we really have something,
Yeah,
here. What did you kind of from there? Did you go all in, kind of in that market with this exact tactic?
absolutely not. I was afraid, right? Like I was a skeptic going in. Like I got enough confidence to pull the trigger, and I needed a year. I needed to know I bought something real, that the house was there, that the tenant's actually paying, that I'm making the supposed money that I was told I was going to make. So I sat in fear of the unknown, and I wanted to wait to see that this actually works. So no, I waited a whole year before we actually went out and bought another property.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, right? Like I think a lot of people do the opposite. It's like, oh, this works. Let's go all in. And the way that a project looks when you do a one-off project compared to when you do 10 at a time is 100% different. But
Yes,
people
sir.
people don't realize that. So, fast forward, and there's a few things I want to back up to in a second, but fast forward to um that year later. Did you buy one more? Did you buy five more? How did that get set up?
Yeah, great question. So after that year and realizing, man, this actually works, we went off and we bought five that following year. And that's the year that really solidified this is what we're going to do, and we're going to scale. Because when we first started, our vision was, oh, I'm going to retire maybe 5 years early, right? That was what we were expecting. One property a year for 10 years, sit on them for
Yep.
10 years, and then retire 5 years early. But the second year is when we started to ramp up and get more urgent around that goal, that led us to getting out in 4 years.
And you still have those today, 10 years later, or did your game plan change?
Yeah, it changed when we reached that portfolio level. Like the beautiful thing was is we got that financial independence, but I'm sure like you guys know, working single family homes or residential homes, there's the tenant termites and toilets issues. And when you amass a large enough one, it can be overwhelming in itself to manage a large portfolio. So we started to do what we call catapult. We would take these greenhouses, a monopoly analogy, trading these greenhouses for the Red Hotel, which is where we're at now. We invest a lot in commercial.
Got it. Yeah. And I think most people do. Like, I think most people change. And it's like, there's a few things. Like, number one, the market increased a lot, which is great. So it's like, hey, listen, bought these rinky dink properties. I'm probably never going to see the amount of appreciation again in a decade, like I just saw in this
Right.
particular asset class. Like, that's, yeah. And it's good. It's discipline to do because there's too many people that have not done that. And, next thing they know, it's like, okay, well, now I'm stuck in these things. Let's go back real quick. And then Ian, you can jump in related to partnerships. Cause I think that was an important thing. And I agree with the partnerships, and, it can be a spouse like you have, or it can just be a business partner. Right. And Ian and I both have separate business partners in there. And, it's hard. Like you said, Ian, like this is a lonely space. Being a real, you feel like you're on your own island. CJ is on an island. We feel as entrepreneurs, business owners, real estate investors that it is a lonely space in general. So like having a business partner not only can potentially kind of give you, incentives to kind of move forward and to do this, in essence, like, okay, well, I'm doing this as a team with somebody, but also, you can kind of rely on them daily as they rely on you on daily to kind of push everything forward. They work in so many ways. They can be your accountability partner, they can be your coach, they can be your partner, they can, put up capital, they can help you with deals, they can do things that you don't like to do. They do, you do things that they don't like to do. So there's so many good things that associate with that. So I just wanted to circle back on that piece that we kind of overlooked earlier. Yeah, Ian. So let's keep going through CJ's kind of story with these.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would also agree with that. Is like, I guess CJ, maybe like a better way to ask it is like, what traits does your wife have versus what you have? Have you guys ever done like this personality test to like really identify who's the decision maker, who's the supportive role? I can take a guess just kind of sitting here listening to you. And I'd be curious to what your wife's employment was before quitting.
She was a mail carrier. So
Really?
we were both in the same profession. Yes. She was a mail carrier.
Interesting.
That's how we met. She was stalking me. We're on the same route together.
Yeah. Get away from my house.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, all right. So she's obviously more of like a visionary type, and you're probably more of a supportive, like, all right, the wife said, let's go. And we got to go do this because she seems to have a good hunch every time.
Not necessarily. So the funny part is as much as she spearheaded the initial part, like I'm the lead now. Like I just needed to drink the Kool-Aid and then I took charge. The disc, I don't believe we've done the disc, but we did some variation of it. She's more of like that controller analyst, and I'm more of that visionary promoter, the one that connects and networks, i.e. being on a podcast. She doesn't want to be on a podcast. Like she's behind the scenes, I'm front of the scenes. That's how we work. And it's been a beautiful pairing. Like Jason, you said, like we complement each other. So what I lack in, she brings strength in. What I bring strength in, she lacks in. And we really fill in the voids beautifully. So I'm the one that goes out and acquires in the masses. She's the one that makes sure we're making the money we say we're going to make. And we call that stabilization, making sure our portfolio is performing.
Yeah. No. So basically what she did was she researched this idea and she's like, I got a sucker to take the bait. Let's see if it works. And then she's like, hey, CJ, maybe we should buy houses. And it worked out. No, I don't want to take anything away from what you guys did, but that's awesome. So what I like to talk sometimes about, because people ask me all the time, I have a similar story. I was a fireman for the city of Baltimore. All I wanted was 10 houses. If I paid them off at the end of my career, I'd have $1 million. I thought it would be king shit. And here we are later today with all kinds of crazy real estate. What was your reservation from going from single family to commercial, if there was any? Because that's a question I get asked a lot, because people ask, they want to know, how did you tackle that hurdle? You had what served you to get from zero to where you were, and then what the next steps were to get to commercial, perceivably could be different. What did that look like for you, and what reservations did you have going from single to commercial?
The lack of knowledge. It was intimidating to think we're looking at these $1 million commercial assets. We only know residential. Like this is foreign to us, and it was just making up these limiting beliefs around what we couldn't do. And I had a mentor challenge me, like change often happens when the cost outweighs the benefit. And for us, that cost was the amount of time my wife was spending on stabilizing and maintaining our residential portfolio, because we amassed a large amount in a short period of time. It's a lot of one-year leases that get to be renewed, a lot of tenant turnovers. There's evictions involved. Like that cost of her spending all that focused time and energy wasn't worth the benefit anymore. So we were essentially challenged to break through the limiting belief that we can't do this. And now we start to ask questions, how do we do this? And that shift changed everything. And ultimately, you got to take a leap at some point, right? We don't know what we don't know. And we like to create a result. And based on our experience, we're like, why couldn't we be successful in commercial? It's very similar in concept. How do we take what we know already and bridge that gap temporarily until we become experienced in the commercial space? And then it just starts with that first deal.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I would agree. We dabbled our toe in a small warehouse, a small multifamily building, and just kind of scaled from there. The ability to raise capital and all those other little nuggets, they come along, and most people have the experience that they need. So for you, and like as we started to buy more commercial now, what's interesting about you is initially you stepped up and was forced to invest way far from where you lived, whereas for us, we always invested where we lived or operated, and then expanded nationwide. Talk about some of the challenges of the nationwide and what markets you're primarily investing in now, because I know for us, when we did the commercial jump and got out of state, there's some challenges there. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, the big challenge for us initially was believing we could do this in a city we don't live in. It's one of the things that keeps a lot of, at least our community, from doing what we do. Even though we found success, others still don't believe it's real. So breaking through that came from associating ourselves with other investors who are doing it, borrowing some of their confidence, courage, and experience, knowing that if you can do it, why can't I? Networking is so important. Right? Real estate, it's more relationship driven is what I call it, less the property. The property is the vehicle of getting the cash flow, but the real estate is what gets me the vehicle. So once I understood that concept, it was going and putting myself in positions to meet people like you guys in markets that I wanted to invest in. So you asked what markets we were looking in. We started off in Indianapolis. That was our first property. We also went into Jacksonville, Florida, and Kansas City and Kansas City, Missouri. So those are all the markets that we were establishing networks in, we're getting results with. And we focus primarily now in Kansas City, Missouri, because we were able to build a great team and be able to isolate some issues and develop the systems and processes needed to scale.
Nice. So do you go ahead, Jay.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask real quick about the team. So you've built that team in-house, like in-house network, or are you still relying on third-party vendors as in like property managers and leasing agents and things of those sorts? I understand if you're turning a unit, you're probably going to go third party, but I'd be interested to hear.
Yeah, we are all about leveraging external network. I don't want to be a jack of all trades. I want to be a master of one. And I love Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy, Who Not How, that book. If you've read it, like I'm looking for who's that are experts in. So I'm outsourcing all the time because that's how you do it when you're far away, 3,000 plus miles away, 5,000 miles away from Florida. You get to find the who that can be your extension. And that's also a great formula for scaling. And I like to leverage everybody so I can focus on what I'm great at, which is accumulation, capital raising, finding deals, networking, all of that other stuff.
Got it. What do you think kind of the next step is scaling? Are you kind of in like, hey, we have a really good thing going and we're going to keep it the way it is and, continue to execute? Or is it, hey, we're always out there grinding, trying to find more opportunities?
We're open to opportunities in general. Now that I like to think we're mastering, and it's a consistent thing, right? You don't ever master it and conquer it. It's always ongoing. So I'm wanting to still do what I do in the residential and in the commercial. And I'm looking for possibilities beyond what I know in commercial, because I know I'm not even near where I could be, right? What I did in 4 years surpassed our 10-year goal. What I did in 10 years surpassed our 20-year goal. There's going to be something else. And that's why I like to be in spaces like with you, Jason and Ian, is I want to learn. I'm a forever student. I don't know everything. So what opportunity lies out there that is far better than what I can see today? I'm always curious.
Yeah, those are great ways to be, especially, having that learning, being in the masterminds, being in groups, talking with communities, even just doing these podcasts. I mean, Jason and I get exposed to a lot of guests that have very unique operating businesses that are always like, oh, well, that's cool. And I don't know that we might implement it today, right? There is a long-term opportunity to say, okay, that might serve me at a later date. And it's really, so when I was a fireman, we used to always say it's, putting a tool in the toolbox. You're not always going to pull it out, but you got to know there's plan B, C, D, E, F, go down the list, right? However, plan A is your go-to. What, leaving UPS, and I know it sounded like you were very like, I'm done. I had a mentor once tell me, he's like, sometimes you just got to pick the fight to leave. Like, do you think you could have survived at UPS and continued to invest? Or did you start to create a story of like, all right, I don't want to talk bad, but I got to get the fuck out. Like, I'm just done. Like, get me out of here. Right. And I'm going to pick whatever fight. That's what happened to me on my last day of work. I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to break every rule. It was like Office Space. It's like, all right, man, I don't care. TPS reports. I'm bringing in my fish and flying it right on the desk. I did not care. I'd be interested to see your thought process, because I think a lot of people have that fear of exiting a job and how to do it, because identity is so tied to, hey, everybody knows CJ is the guy from UPS. He drops my boxes off. Thank God for Amazon, right?
Right. I had a little bit of both, like I had a story around, man, maybe I should just stay because it gives me that security, the perception of security. And then there was a part of me like, I hate this job because of the way it's run, and I don't have control over management. I don't have control over corporate. Like, I have ideas and I want to improve, and nobody wants to listen to me because I don't have a college degree. Like it was like I was being pulled in two directions, my personal security, but man, these guys obviously don't give a rip. I'm a cog in a wheel. I can be replaced at any day. Which the irony in that was, in our 4-year growth period, I got severely injured where I was out of the job on work comp for 2 years. And in that 2 years, I discovered mentorship. I discovered coaching. I discovered leadership training and all these things that made me realize this isn't happening to me. It's happening for me. This is an opportunity right now. I say I wanted more time. I got more time because I was bedridden for 6 months. Right. What do I do at that time? And that's when we scaled. The irony was I didn't need the money or the security to scale. I needed to develop skill sets. I need to understand that my time is better used in other areas, and I could create far more than what the paycheck was bringing in. So that's what I ended up doing. When I got back from injury, I was like, I don't even want to be here. I'm more productive at home. I was taking leave without pay, burning all my sick leave and vacation. I was just like waiting for that next year mark to just have that chalked up, vetted year for retirement that I can't touch for 25 more years. It was just one of those things. That was my marker. Hit that date, anniversary, I'm gone.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. You know, I broke my ankle in an alley on a fire. I came back to work and I said, Jesus, you guys are still talking about the same crap. And listen, I love my guys. Like, I was the biggest shit talker at the table. I stirred the pot. But when I got back, I said, how in the hell are we still talking about the same shit? And when you're in it every day, it's very easy to stay in it because it's your life, it's your identity, it's your everything. And I think once you get out there and recognize what's possible, I think it goes a long way. So, you know, as Jason asked, what are you up to today, right? Like, presumably you're still investing. Are you guys into anything else? Like, what do you work on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so it's twofold. I'm still active investing, and I also mentor about 500 students actively in our mentorship community. And we teach and train what we did to find success. And we don't flip, we don't wholesale, we don't focus on other methods. We are great at what we do, and we teach people how to invest in a city they don't live in.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's smart, you know, and even like just looking at where, you know, see Jason's closer to DC. And DC's market's probably similar to Hawaii. It's just insanely expensive, and they would all come up to Baltimore and we would all laugh because you really need to know the ins and outs of where you're going and what you're doing when you're going out of territory, because Baltimore can be a scary place, you know. So
maybe go through 2 or 3 tips of, hey, I'm a real estate investor. I'm an active real estate investor. I'm not a newbie. Like, I know what I'm doing, but right. I'm in a market that's at a high price point and I want to continue to buy rentals, but it doesn't work here. You know, what are some resources? What are some tips that, you know, a real estate investor would do? Next steps?
It'd be really networking and getting associated, kind of like what Ian and I talked about, right? Once we got out of those I call it toxic spaces at work. Once I got out of that, I saw a possibility of thinking differently, which then allowed me to see where I could be going instead of being stuck in that vicious, repetitive cycle of, well, UPS sucks, but I'm still here. So when you're stuck in a market, find those networks that are doing it in more affordable markets. Affordable markets are basically markets where you find lower house purchase price, but closer to rent ratio, right? 1% rule is one that I always reference people. Look for a 1% rule. 1% rule is purchase price is $100,000. It should rent for $1,000. That's a generic formula that gets you an idea. You should be positive in cash flow. So if you're looking in your area, it's $1 million, but it rents for $4,000 like Hawaii, it ain't going cash flow. I don't need to go into the weeds of why, it just doesn't. So I'm looking for a market that has a $100,000 house that rents for $1,000, or a $200,000 duplex that rents for $2,000, and just going in those directions and then meeting people who are doing it. I'm not looking to reinvent the wheel. How we moved quickly was following success from somebody else. And that's what we do with our mentorship side is we go first and you just follow the path. So there's less friction. You have a higher chance to be successful. The limiting belief factor is going to be big when you have success and you know what you're doing in your market, but you're kind of shifting method. You're going to have to be open to being a student again. That's really a big shift for me that I see with a lot of investors, because I deal with a lot of Hawaii investors who are flippers. They're great at flipping, but have no clue how to build cash flow passive income. What they know works in Hawaii doesn't work in the Midwest. They got to be willing to adapt, adjust, and pivot to create this new strategy or method in this market.
Do you think buying cash flow rentals over flipping houses in a different market you're not in is way easier?
Yes. I still scratch my head, because the more I do what I do, the less I see why anybody would want to flip. What I could do in the rental market, and I play with some advanced strategies. Have you guys heard of the BRRRR strategy? I'm sure you guys have. But the BRRRR strategy, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. The theory is to put in this much capital and to be able to pull it back out on the back end. Well, that's what we do. So I can make my 25% down I would have needed, but also keep the property in cash flow. And I can do this over and over again. And we've taken this into commercial, where we do this in the commercial space too. So a person flipping $1 million home, well, I'm burning out $1 million commercial, and I'm also cash flowing a lot of money at the end. It doesn't make sense to me to want to do it. I'm not saying flipping's bad. Our strategy is just different. And if people want passive, well, flipping's not passive. Flipping's active. You got to hustle for that next deal. You always got to create. There's no residual after the big payout. Transferring that wealth to more passive side can offset the risk of not flipping again. And that's how we work with some investors that are in Hawaii that are strong flippers. Hey, make that money, park it here. Now you're building that portfolio of passive income and legacy generational wealth, all while you're staying great here. So Jason, to partnership, that's a great pairing, right? You may not need to be an expert in another market, but find somebody who's successful in another market and partner with them, where maybe you're the capital and they're the deal finder, they're the operator or whatever. And you create this flow of the who is in this market is great, but you can still be great at what you do in your market.
Yeah, makes sense.
That definitely makes sense. And I think, again, the other takeaway is you just need to know what tool you're using, right? Yeah. If you're in your backyard and a flip's better because you have better resources and you can generate that active income and then apply it to passive income investments, that's a no-brainer, right? Not every flip is a great rental, and not every rental is a great flip, right? So just knowing what you're looking at and being able to identify what you're working with and knowing the exit strategy, I think, is very, very important. So I think those are all smart tips and great that I think everybody at any level needs to be reminded of, right? We look at properties all the time. And as of recent, we've been looking at, okay, well, how do we continue to refine our portfolio by selling off what's not working for us, by stepping into deals that have multiple exit strategies, like a condo flex space, right? We can rent them, we can sell them off, we can sell the whole building off. We have multiple exit strategies. So I think that's very important as well. CJ, we appreciate you hopping on. One thing we like to ask all our guests before we let them go and give them a shout out where to find you is what's one booger? What's one book or podcast that you think everybody should go check out?
I've been saying it this whole podcast, but Who Not How is one of my go-to reads every year. Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy is a game changer.
That is definitely a good one. Jason and I have read that. We've recapped it on the show several times. Definitely go read that, and then go read Dan Martell's book side by side with that. Buy Back Your Time. You literally get the premise and the hows of what to do. It's a no-brainer. I had the opportunity to interview or actually have Dan Martell come to our mastermind. And that was a really, really cool experience to hear him spit it all out. So with all that being said, CJ, where's the best place people can find you on the internet? They want to learn more about what you do, or where they can learn how to invest in real estate themselves.
Yeah, they can follow us on Instagram at WN Properties. WNN Properties.
Got it. We will get that in the show notes so everybody can go find CJ. CJ, thank you for coming on, traveling all the way across the country through the interwebs to join us. I'm sure it's early your time. I mean, how many hours behind are you guys?
Where are you located? Are you Central or
Eastern? We're East Coasters.
Eastern, 6 hours.
6. Okay, 6 hours. I can't even do the math, guys. It's early in the morning out there. With that being said, CJ, thank you again for hopping on. We will get all the info in the show notes. Guys, if you got any value out of CJ, he dropped bombs left and right. Please share the show. He's out there on an island, and more people need to hear about him. And we don't care about the likes or subscribes. We'll catch you all on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.